Hey, there you are. How are you? How are you
Wow,
today?
what a strange time this is.
What do you mean? 12
Well,
12 o'clock in Portugal?
No, just that there's loads of disconnections and reconnections happening all the time.
Yeah, it's training.
Yeah. What's it like where you are? Our experience over the weekend was that our electricity went off. Our power was completely fried. We had to be reconnected. And then for the last couple of days, we've had power outages and little disconnections.
So as without, so within, right?
Yeah.
If I just backtrack you through what you just said.
Yeah.
We lost our connection.
It
got fried.
Yeah.
And we had to reconnect. We did though, didn't we?
We did reconnect.
And that's just not the power. Really though, this seems to be the time. The new reality, the great unraveling. These are the yin and the yang, I think, of the same object or situation we're looking at. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know we've advertised with Tasha, and there's been a disconnection there. I don't know what's happened, but maybe I communicated something incorrectly about our meeting time, and so we're disconnected that way as well. However,
so we can use the new reality again, as a way of accounting for human error too.
Huh?
I'm just being cheeky. We can use the new reality as a way of accounting for our human error, possibly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, human error. But again, if I've made a human error, if I'm making mistakes, which of course we all do, then isn't that just because we're disconnected from ourselves? We're not quite, we're not quite in touch with what we're up to.
Yeah, it's a fact, isn't it? We are where we are, and it's a fact.
Yes.
It is what it is, that great cliche, which is painfully true. And everything like blame, shame, judgment, guilt comes after the fact, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's not, those things aren't the facts. They're the meanings we give to situations. And by goodness, we do seem to be in quite a few situations.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah. And I've just noticed, obviously, in the last day, I think X, formerly known as Twitter, has gone down, and so the feed that we normally do to Twitter, I can just see is also disconnected.
That's still off.
Yeah, that's still off. Or
those boycotting that platform will be glad about that. We're depriving them of our goodness. Oh no, hold on a minute. Might it not be a good idea to be over there in that case?
I don't know, but
there's more of the judgment we're going into there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder what it's like.
I'm trying to authorize that app, and we are getting a green tick, and we'll see if that works or not. So, thanks, Deb. Good morning to you as well. And are you guys cold over there in Portugal? We're not, are we? We've just been in the garden.
No, we've been in the garden.
A few moments ago. The sun is shining.
Yeah. So we had to leg it into the garden just to tidy a few things up because we've had storms. I mean, nothing like what's happened in Sydney and around the Gold Coast. My goodness, I had no idea. And then I was in one of the groups that I sit in, and I saw 3 people that I know posting about the cyclone, and my goodness, obviously I stay off the news quite a lot. That had completely passed me by. We were in our own storm mode, but like nothing like a cyclone. Like surprising things. And what really occurs to me is the fact that, we're coming up to the eclipse on Friday. Eclipses are absolutely well known for stirring things up, creating weather patterns, and also stirring up the human psyche. So interesting times. I do also want to just say that this is our last live show for 5 days. Because we got.
Well, I thought there was a big memo I hadn't.
No.
Last show, I was like, I don't remember that memo.
No, it's our last show for 5 days because Carl's actually reconnecting. So again, this whole idea of connections, disconnections. We've got Carl's daughter coming to stay with us, and so we want to be really fully present. But what we do have is a lovely, funnily enough, 3 shows on the trot with Vinny, our good friend Vinny, Vincent
Uncle
and
Vinny to my daughter, in fact.
Yes, Uncle Vinny. And he's going to be, we recorded some shows last year with him, and it's a 3-part series. It's perfect. It's just going to slot right in. So he's going to be taking you on a journey, funnily enough, of reconnection. So isn't it funny?
And they're worth watching, aren't they? In sequence and hearing all the good stuff that he has to say.
Yeah, and absolutely. And on Friday's edition, he takes us on a journey of reconnection. He takes us into a sort of hypnotic subliminal trance.
The thing about
which is really nice.
Yeah, and the thing about Vinny, I would say, is he's ahead of his time. the things the processes he was taking you and I through probably 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's that long ago, isn't it? And,
yeah, well, I mean, these particular ones we recorded last year, didn't we?
Yeah, but I'm talking about his work generally speaking. I think he's a really hugely underrated healer, resetter, how would you describe him?
I think he's a maverick creator.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he uses his full awareness and also his intuition to create the best tools he can to do the job. And sometimes I think, you know, he takes a chance, and I think that's really needed. You know, he has a hunch about things, and so I think he's deeply intuitive. Right. In fact, I think Deb was quite interested in getting to know Vinny in terms of his energies. So, you know, Vinny's very, very powerful. What's Deb saying there? Tasha is here.
Tasha's joined us in just a moment, which is fantastic. Do you want to answer your question, Deb? We're not cold. The sun is out for the moment. It's been very rainy, but not as cold and wet and devastated as it has been in other parts of the world. So we're very lucky, and a little bit warmer today.
Yeah.
I try every day to stay present, and that seems to be the work of the moment, doesn't it? To remember to be in the moment, to stay present, to breathe. Yeah. Whilst we're being tested, if you like.
Yeah.
But with the turmoil here in the States, I can feel myself getting knocked out of peace and bliss.
Yeah.
It's taking some extra effort to make sure I stay grounded. Well, keep going with that training. It's like a boot camp at the moment, isn't it? Who are you talking about? Vinny? Yes, we're talking about Vinny there. So yes, tune in
I know
tomorrow,
Debs was interested in exploring the idea of a past life regression, or
he does that.
You know, her out of body experience that she had.
Yeah.
So
he helped me so much with some like inner child healing. He's so good and generous and powerful with that sort of work. He did an amazing process with me, which I think we recorded. It's online. Yeah. It's quite a vulnerable and incredible moment. Let's bring Tasha on, shall we?
Yes, and we can carry on this conversation about connection and reconnection. Hi, Tasha. Hi. I'm sorry if I missed you around this morning. Did I send you the wrong time? I'm so sorry.
No, we did have our daylight savings time, so I logged in.
Yes.
So I was an hour early, and I was like, okay. So I gave it 15 minutes, and so I've just kind of been piddling around here, and I saw the message. So I was like, let me jump on.
That's amazing, isn't it? You'd think you'd be allowed to have this year off with the daylight savings, wouldn't you? I mean, there's enough going on, isn't there, with everyone's clocks being reset as well.
Do you know what? I think I heard that DJT was planning on getting rid of daylight savings.
Really?
I think that was one of his plans. Is that right, Tasha?
I've heard that. I actually just asked myself like 2 days ago. I'm like, I thought we were done with this, you know.
every year. Yeah. But it's one of those questions, though, isn't it? You can't win with that, can you? It's literally a binary, polarizing choice, isn't it? Should we or not? And half the people are going to be upset about it. But then again, that seems to be a hallmark of these times, doesn't it? How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's a great day so far. I'm doing great.
Have you been observing sort of disconnections and reconnections and sudden outages like we have, like from late last week? It seems that things have been on and off. What's your experience right now?
Are you speaking literally, like with power and electricity, or are you speaking energetically?
Both.
Definitely both.
Everything.
Our power did go out.
Yes.
Yes. So both. Yes. Same. So for the last month and probably the last 2 to 3 times I've been on the show, I didn't have power. And so finally, I didn't have power on 3 walls of my room back here, like where my office space is, and a whole month. And there's been an ego thing inside of me because I have solar. And so I would have had to call the contractor that installed the solar. It's a whole story. However, I finally bit the bullet on yesterday. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to him because he has gone above and beyond, this contractor. And I was like, I'm just going to reach out to him, but I don't want him to think I'm asking for special favors or whatever. He fixed it over text message. And I'm like, here I am stressed about, getting a hold of this guy. And I'm like, what was the deal? And it was scarcity. It was I didn't want to have to pay the service call. And so like that, things like that for me inside are ending. Like all of these fears that I've had and I've held myself back. But that in and of itself, once you allow something to die, including a mindset, then that inherently, readies you for a new beginning. For Tasha, though, I'm in that liminal space. And so energetically, I think that liminality of where I'm at, I'm getting a lot more intuitive downloads. And so last night I was sitting and I was pulled into a trance, and there was a candle in front of me, intentionally so, because I was like looking at the candle flame, and I let myself go down. And I got so many visions about this conversation. And I'm just gonna share it really quickly. It's not anything.
No need to be quick. Just take your time. Share what you've got to share.
Yeah. First of all, I started crying. Like my body was crying, but my mind, there was no connection there. My body was purging something out. But then cups. I keep seeing cups everywhere. And cups, like vessels, empty vessels that we who are conscious consider ourselves light workers, healers, starseeds, whatever you want to call yourself. Like we are to be ready. And to be ready, because as more and more people wake up, and we know this astrology is kind of wild right now, leading up to Friday, we just get to be ready, because I feel energetically that these cups are going to be overflowing. So those of us who are conscious, have we cleared enough out to allow ourselves to be as powerful as we're going to be called to be in the next few weeks? Not come from a place of lack, and not come from a place of that God complex, but knowing the God within and having that Christ knowing, but not the God complex, where we have to do the work. But anyway, there was this vision that kind of like fell on me, and I was like, well, hell, here we go, but we've all known that this time was coming. That's why we're here. And we are the ones who got to remember first, to remind the others when they wake up and they're blinded by the light, the soothing voice of the angel, so to speak, will be ours.
What?
You've done it again. We only need to really have a 5-minute show with you.
Yes.
We introduce you. You say something like that. It's like mic drop. Okay, we're done here. That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And to be honest, because we do have to go on until we don't have to, but we choose to, and our show is 30 minutes, so we can unpack that a bit more. But I did go straight to scarcity and lack. And when
really,
you were saying,
why?
No, I'll explain.
Talk us through that.
My first. Tasha's saying, let the cups be filled, and let's make sure they're truly empty to receive all that's coming. And I'm like, stop it, come on. We've been through enough in the last few weeks. This too. And then my thought after that, I started, chuckling inwardly, is like, fair enough. Let's do it. Let's do this. And last night, I do a live stream about helping people to start live streaming and start YouTube channels. And the big takeaway, as I always say anyway, but it was re-emphasized last night. It was like, there ain't nothing to it but to do it. Press record, press play, get on with it, just do it, and you'll get better by doing it. That's the only way, really. And the other side of that is, as well as just get on with it, ain't nothing to it but to do it, is we also have to address what's getting in the way, because that's really the problem, isn't it?
It's basically us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting in our own way.
We're leaning over the handlebars. We've got a nice big stick, and we're going to go, what happens if I stick this into the spokes here?
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's wild.
We and perhaps that's what you're suggesting, or connects with what you're suggesting, is what's left in the cup that doesn't allow it to be full of light and goodies and goodness. And we do know, don't we? Because it's what stops us every time we go to do something like get the solar fixed, or jobs I've got on my list. I saw it recently, a meme about I just did something that I've been putting off for 3 years. It took me 2 minutes. What? Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
That's the truth.
Seriously. And he was like, "Don't ever go without power." And I'm like, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
You don't need to do that. Yes.
Well, Tasha, that's interesting, isn't it? So we've been messing around with power a little bit, and also playing with the ideas of power. It turned out we always had the power. It's just exactly. There was so much power, our box melted.
Yes,
right.
There you go.
Okay, so there was a flow. There was a flow. There's a flood, and our box short circuited. There was too much flow. It short circuited. It melted, and then it needed to be replaced. Yeah. With you, it's interesting. You've got heaps of power, and you've been playing a power game. So you could have had even more, and you chose to go without for a bit.
Until you didn't.
Until you didn't.
until
was
And
that
then you
moment?
claimed it.
So what is it? What was in that moment? Did you just sort of say enough already and like just hit the button and call the guy?
Honestly, astrology.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm a student of astrology. I sit at Louisa's feet, and I can't even describe how much I love the way that I've said it this way before, but dances through the stars. Anyway, Virgo is my 4th house, and we're going through that eclipse coming up, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on? Like meticulous, like, detailed. What can I fix? What should I let go of? Am I being whatever? Just considering all of that. And I was like, 4th house is my home. And it gave me a sobering minute to look around. There's a couple of little like niggling things that all require money. So it's a scarcity thing. And I'm like, let me come at this from a place of abundance. And so I was like, I don't care the cost. I went ahead and put a line item in my budget for the amount that I thought would be for this contractor. And it was a little generous because I was like, if they have to rewire stuff, whatever. So I just did it. And so I set it for Monday, 8 a.m. to call this guy. I texted him first, and it was fixed within 20 minutes. And now I have that surplus of funds to kind of reallocate, because as you guys know, I quit my job a while ago, and I realized probably the biggest hurdle was that lack versus abundant mindset financially. So to answer the question, it was just astrology and learning to navigate my life a little bit more broadly than just at the numbers on a page kind of thing.
That in itself is a moment, isn't it? This show is the moment. The whole idea was to have different approaches to being in the moment. But that's like the yin and yang. There's a moment of truth in a way, isn't there? It's like, am I going to do this or not? And you just did it. You went in that you set an alarm for it to do it. And it's very interesting that as well to me, my go-to with these things that I've been putting off for 3 years or 53 years, and it only takes 2 minutes to do. I've got an inner Jordan Peterson who's saying, come on, man, you can do this. Are you a man or not? And I'm hearing him shout, make your bed. And he's doing all this stuff in my head. And then I thought, hold on a minute.
Sounded a bit like Alex Jones there as well in that one.
Well,
you you didn't say a boot. That's why.
Why are you missing a boot? Come on. No, that's Scottish now, isn't it? Anyway, my inner Jordan Peterson is poking at me like, are you a man or a mouse? Do these jobs, do these things. It's like, probably not going to help, because that's what I was told 53 years ago. It didn't get done. And now it's like, to go all kind of mushy and inner child, it's like, you've got this, you can do this, and it needs to be a bit more encouraging now, does it not? Because let's face it, if it's not getting done and all that, man up stuff didn't get it done, there's probably a reason for that. And now is the time, isn't it? It's like, okay, you had a good reason 53 years ago to stamp your foot and not do a thing that needed doing. It became a bit of a habit. It lasted quite a long time. And you know what? It's causing you problems now, but you've got this. You've got this. It was okay then. You are okay now. And you're being listened to 53 years later. Should we just pick up the phone and it's going to be fine? Let's just, and you can get results like you got, right, Tasha?
Absolutely. I was a part of a conversation on Sunday, and the person who was speaking, and I'm just going to say it so you guys can like edit this out, but she was talking about the inner shit talker. And that was the phrasing.
Yeah, we'll write that down and forget about it. Edit that bit out.
But that's what she called it. And so for me, I was like, okay, the inner critic, we hear about the inner critic. But then I remembered this message that I got one time. It was like the inner critic and then the inner Christ, because that's my narrative. Those are words that I use. And so like, who do you listen to? The inner critic, which, we were fed the inner critic by default. Like that's the nature of being born in this matrix reality is Definitely. We were sent here, or we came here, we chose to come here and be blinded to most of our power. And like the narrative that was set in our subconscious for the first 7 years of life, because, perpetual generational things and beliefs, then we get to overcome that by listening more to that inner Christ, which does mean care, pick up your bag and keep going, travel light, like don't be weighed down by fears, but still do the thing. And it's that quote we hear about before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah.
So Tasha, I've been envisioning like my house, because this is not my forever home. It doesn't feel like that. And I'm like, if I know that I am able to manifest the home of my dreams, how might I want to serve this home as though it were the home of my dreams? Take care of the freaking electricity, Tasha, for what? You know what I mean? So like,
yes.
Inner critic, yeah, thank you for getting my attention. Inner Christ, thank you for alchemizing it as I chop wood and carry water today in this right now moment.
Beautiful.
So
that's really beautiful.
And like, you know, the inner Christ, I had a vision of Christ's face laughing at me and with me. That's the difference, isn't it? You know, your inner critic just laughs at you. And I think it's not like Christ is all like laughing with you. The Christ consciousness and love is so big it can do both, right? Or that can do both, as in we can have a laugh together about how this has taken so long and is messing my life up, and we can laugh about that, can't we? And like, okay, we've had a laugh. Should we just change it now? Yeah, why not?
Right. Once shame gets taken away, I think it feels a lot better.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Bearing in mind that we've got the eclipses coming up, so we've got an eclipse coming, obviously.
Oh yeah, back to the cups.
Sorry,
back to the cups.
Back to the cups, and you know, it's a Virgo eclipse. Straight after the eclipse, Mercury goes retrograde. Now, Virgo is a sign that's ruled by Mercury, so this eclipse, as much as it's about tidying up our mess, it's also what needs to be communicated. Like it's like really worth communicating it before this eclipse, like leading up to the eclipse, because in between this eclipse and the next one, I'm literally about to release a whole new load of 2-week forecasts in the next 2 days. But we've got you know, a full moon eclipse on Friday. Then 2 weeks later, we've got a new moon eclipse. And in between, we're starting astrological new year. We've got Venus and Mercury retrograde, loads and loads of things going on. But there's a lot about disconnection. So how can we be the connection throughout this whole period and not get disconnected?
Please answer that now.
I don't know. That's what I'm leaving with Tasha, because I know that Tasha can just like all of a sudden when she's asked, all of a sudden the voice comes in.
Yeah,
it absolutely does. And as soon as you said, how can we be the connection, I get, and you've heard me say this, that syzygy, that infinity symbol. And I feel that we often see it horizontally, connecting to, you know, horizontal polarities. But let's flip it vertical. We are that connection piece. You know where I'm headed with this. And the intersection of the infinity symbol is our heart. So we get to empty ourselves to be serene and serenity, in my opinion. And that's how it works for me, is to release whatever needs to be released so that I may be filled with those Piscean waters of my, you know, like my midheaven, right? But like those Piscean waters for Tasha is like tapping into the faith and the knowingness of the flow of, as I purify, as I release, as I do whatever needs to be done before Friday, apparently, right? But as long as I do whatever needs to be done to kind of get my vessel to where I feel most at ease is when I'm in line with the flow, because the only thing that gets us out of alignment is our thinking and our trying to get on top of the flow of things. So I think it's just that balance of how do we connect it. It's just allowing ourselves to be upright. Ooh, one more thing. So when I was brought into that meditation last night, I noticed that I leaned forward a lot. And when I hit bottom, I leaned back. There's always this like slight pullback. And I was telling my son about it, my 9-year-old son, which, by the way, last time we talked about, everything's great. Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
But I often talk about when we sit upright, our energy runs a little more smoothly, but our breath, our digestion, when we drink something, like when we are upright, we can just kind of rest a little easy with our weight and our sit bones. So coming back to our body, coming back to our breath, coming back to our stillness, in my opinion, is kind of how we get to be the intermediary between the divine and the very human.
Wow.
I love that. And I don't know if you realized, but you, in the example you gave,
I'm on that. Yeah.
You drew a cup.
Did I?
Like, look, there's the cup. If you move the infinity symbol upright,
you've got the vessel.
You've got the vessel. You refer to yourself.
It's a goblet, isn't it?
You refer to yourself as the vessel. That is the cup. You become the cup.
Yeah.
And the funnel that comes out as well. So you're receiving and then releasing.
And it's dynamic, isn't it? That dot that you said was the heart. I mean, and I had it as like our heart is like the needle on the vinyl of life. So it's tracing, it's going up to heaven, isn't it? And bringing, you know, and where the intersection is, you know, that's where we are, aren't we, at any given time in this dynamic loop, rather than it being, you know, a cold 2-dimensional graphic. This is a 5-dimensional. It is the heart in a way, isn't it? It is actually a representation of the heart in 5 dimensions of this constant movement.
Isn't the heart a vortex? Yeah,
I bet there's a spiral in it, isn't there? Of that, it would appear. I don't know, but it feels right, doesn't it? It definitely feels right. This symbology and the metaphor and needles on records.
That is the Holy Grail. Are we talking about the Holy Grail? I mean, a whole other, you know, it's a whole other thing, you know, because our wombs are vessels as well, aren't they? And portals to a different reality.
Yes.
What I'm getting from you, Tasha, is like the heart, the womb. There are these like portals, these spaces.
Yes, and making the connection between them.
Yeah.
Yes. And so very interesting that this is ahead of us, as it were. I mean, even though there's only now, we've got this lineup of phenomena, haven't we, that we are preparing ourselves for. And you gave us a beautiful way of being aware of it and seeing it. And maybe that's all we need to do, because Deb's saying, oh dear, you know, and this is what I've been doing in the conversation. It's like the first thought, oh dear, that's where I get stuck. And I think Tasha gave us a way of getting unstuck there. It's seeing that symbol, communicating, getting my words out. Do you have a message for Deb from that point of view of like feeling I can't communicate in the way that I want to?
Absolutely. And thank you for this opportunity. As soon as I kind of read that, and just in this moment, I also remembered in this same vision, in the same meditation, as I came out of it, you know, we hear about tapping, and hopefully, you know, the audience knows about EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique. And so I do that very, you know, habitually. It's just kind of, once I learned about it, I was like, oh, good, this is actually a thing. But anyway, coming out of that vision, it was when we tap, we're hitting energy centers, chakra centers. And we're releasing the energy that's stuck in these certain energy centers. So Deb, if you feel stuck, maybe you're not supposed to communicate in that moment. Maybe you're supposed to
Yes.
You're supposed to be communicated to. Perhaps. I don't know. You're the only one who knows. But then also allow yourself to take any movements that might show up. Because basically, you know, when we have a muscle that, and I know I'm watching the time, when we have a muscle that when we have a muscle that's tight, you know, we get to work it out, we get to stretch it out. But if there's something really stuck and there's a knot, that physical therapist or doctor, whoever, or ourselves will sometimes put a little more pressure to kind of loosen up that tension. We get to do the same thing energetically. So as these energies are building, and as we might find ourselves stuck, just feel free to physically tap somewhere, or just kind of bring some stimulus to kind of break up any kind of stagnant energy while you affirm, it's impossible that I'm stuck. I'm noticing feelings of stuckness, but my energy is vast and expansive, and it's impossible to be stuck. Because to your point earlier, Carl, we are all of it. Love encompasses shadow.
Apart from what's in the way. And what the only thing that appears to be in the way, Deb, and sorry to sound glib about this, is that feeling of being stuck. Yes. So what you can do to free yourself of the idea of being stuck will probably allow whatever needs to flow there. Thank you for that answer, Tasha. Deb, you're right. We have to go 30 seconds. Deb, my number is there for WhatsApp. You come and join our group with, you were asking about posting and live streaming and so on. Very happy to help. And Mrs. M?
Come to my webinar tonight. And hopefully we'll be able to address some of those things. It's not strictly about that, but it will be included.
Tasha, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Deb.
Tasha,
Thanks
for
being
joining
here.
us.
Take care. Bye for now. See you again next time. Ciao, ciao.